Okay, so here we are. This is going to be the class on how to underwrite short-term rental cabins in Tennessee Smoky Mountains. And this is just a little bit about me if you aren't aware. So I did start primarily as an investor. I have a portfolio that consists of 14 properties. 12 of those are short-term rentals. 11 of them are up and running and renting beautifully. And one is they just cut in the basement shape for the cabin that I'm building. So that's very exciting. It won't be done for like 25 years because everything takes forever in Sevier County. Don't recommend building. So I'll just put that out there. But I also am an agent and a property manager. I own Josh's Cabins. We're a full service property management company in the Smokies. We kind of started once I hit 5 short-term rentals and I was self-managing. I just realized it was way too much work. So I hired a team. It's primarily family-based. So I'm not planning on exiting to Vacasa at any point. I am planning to have this be a labor of love until I die. Also invest in the Smoky Mountains. That's my agent team. And if you see Penny Farmer on the screen, she is one of the agents on my team. And we are helping buyers, primarily buyers out of state, but also those in Tennessee as well, get cabins that are going to make money that people will want to rent. That's our primary focus. And we do coaching and training around how to underwrite the deals, what to buy, and all of that good stuff. But I was a commercial banker. I did that for about 23 years. I primarily worked with US Bank, and that's where I got all the credit underwriting knowledge from. And I spent the last 2 years of my career with First Tennessee, First Horizon. They were going to be merging with TD Bank, and they actually just called it off today. So quite interesting times in banking, and I'm glad I'm not there anymore. So that's just a little bit about me. These 2 cabins on the screen here are 2 of my very early deals. The bottom one is Azure Heights Lodge. It's my very first deal. And the top one is Crimson Crest Cabin. And that one, it was probably like my 4th cabin that I bought like right when COVID was cracking down the world. So let's just get right into it. So this is like deal flow. This is what I recommend you do if you're thinking about buying in the Smoky Mountains. The very first thing on the bottom left of your screen is hire an agent. The agent is truly your key to your journey. And I'll tell you why. There's an awful lot of agents in the Smoky Mountains, more than I can count. There's probably thousands. Not all of them are investors. You want to work with an agent that's also an investor. They're going to get it. Bonus points if they also have the same type of investment you're looking to buy. There's just a lot of knowledge that they can give you based on their experience. And if they're just selling you a pretty house, they're going to be an agent just like all other agents. So that's definitely the first step. Second step would be to choose a lender. Now, this is key too, because if you've hired right on the agent side, the agent is going to have multiple lender contacts that they can refer you to. The 2 primary lenders that I refer to clients, they don't pay me a spiff, but they are friends of mine. They also own cabins, and we talk about deals, we talk about buyers, we talk about the market. And so it's just a good base to have a team that works together well. Doesn't mean that you can't get a lender that's out of state. That's totally fine. If you have a preferred lender, maybe like your bank that you work with, they're going to give you better pricing because you have multiple products. Like that's the game I played in banking. You know, we could cut price if somebody had, you know, their checking account and all their loans. So that's fine too. But this would be my recommendation for the Smoky Mountain market. It is a little unique. And I have lenders. The 2 primary ones can do conventional. One of them can do conventional and the debt service coverage ratio loan, which is your asset-based financing. And then I also have done deals with local commercial banks, kind of like the type of deals I did early in my banking career. So lots to choose from. And then the next thing after you have that agent and lender would be the market review. So what I suggest is to just, like every buyer I talk to, I'm like, you don't really need to have automated listings straight out of the gate. Just get a feel for the market by doing your own due diligence. That's how I started. When I started several years ago, I just went on Zillow. You know, there's an app, you can set up alerts and just get a feel for what's out there, what you like, what resonates with you. What's the price per square foot? Are these homes that you're seeing? You know, I have a lot of buyers, they're like, oh, I want to buy a 2-2, I want to pay, you know, 200 grand. Well, that's not a thing in the Smoky Mountains. So get an idea for it, make sure that it fits with what you're looking to do. And so that's market review. And then after the market review, obviously at some point in that journey, you're going to have the pre-approval letter. You're going to share that with your agent team. The agent team is then going to know your exact metrics because you've kind of been looking. We know your budget. We set up listings. And then we also, once we know you have a true sense of urgency and you're really ready to buy something, we are going to be texting it to you real time, because I will tell you, this is a weird market now. We see listings sitting, we see listings pending, we see multiple offers. We're still seeing cash offers. It's like a grab bag of who knows what's going to happen with each listing. So if you see something that you like, you do want to jump on it right away. And that's at the point, you know, when you're really serious and ready to buy something, when you should set up those automated listings and have your agent shopping on your behalf. And then after that, you're looking at deals, stuff's coming across your phone, your desk, from your agent, from Zillow, wherever, and you see something, you like it, it fits the metrics, and I can give you some metrics on what I look at in the Smokies. That's not the focus of today's call, but just in a nutshell, we're looking at mountain views, hot tubs, pool tables. It's almost so obvious, but a lot of people get it wrong. But those are like the three big things. Once you see one that kind of fits those metrics, it's in the right area, that's when you want to get the income and expenses and start underwriting the deal. So it's really simple. It's looking at potential rent, utilities, any kind of operating overhead, all those metrics that'll be pretty easy to gather. I think people overanalyze and they're looking at Rabu, AirDNA, pretending they're a traveler and looking on Airbnb, and then they're going to property management. There's so many different numbers you can find. You can almost find any number you want to find. So work with your team. What I do, because I do own the property management company, is we have access to key data, so we can do rental projections for buyers. Primarily key data will go 1 or 2 years back, but we actually go in and modify rental projections to look at pre-pandemic numbers. And not only that, we also look at my personal portfolio and the properties that we manage for others to make sure that the rental projection makes sense. And then utilities, operating overhead, those are typically easy to get from the seller. We can go to the listing agent and we can say, hey, you got a list of expenses? The only way we see a hiccup in this process of deal underwriting is if it's one of those properties that everybody's going to be offering on. It could go pending as soon as like a business day. Like it could go pending the day it's listed. So you have to work really quickly. You kind of have to get a sense for the market. And that's why you want to partner with a strong team. And then after that, you know, you can do some of this during due diligence, but you really don't ever want to back out because you didn't do your underwriting beforehand. You want to back out because something is sliding down a hill. It has foundation issues. You know, it wasn't what you thought it was by looking at photos. That's kind of when you would want to back out. So you really want to understand these numbers, and I'm going to get straight into it here in just a little bit and kind of show you what this looks like. It is fast and easy to do. But what you're going to do is you're going to calculate something that we call NOI, for all you fancy acronym people. It's net operating income, and all that is rent minus expenses. It's really not that fancy or difficult. And then after NOI, we deduct mortgage payments. In my underwriting and some of the like big spreadsheets I've built, I just deduct the mortgage payments out in the net operating income calculation, because I'm not looking at a bunch of cabins, I'm looking at like one deal. But the reason like a lot of people will deduct the mortgage payments after the net operating income is because it's really not like a fair depiction of the deal itself, because you might have the ability to buy it with cash. You might have the ability to put more down, and that will skew the number. And I'll kind of show you that when I jump into
Yeah, it's Dr. Bonnie's page about
What's that? Question?
Jack, you need to mute yourself.
Oh. Thank you. So yeah, and then after we do the net operating income calculation, we've got the mortgage payment out of there. You're going to see like your actual annual cash flow that you can make, and you're going to use that figure to calculate what we call cash on cash. I don't think anybody calls it COC, but you might see that, which is why I wanted to use the acronyms. And this is just simply a percentage of profit for each dollar that you're putting out of your pocket. So not your mortgage, not your expenses, but your down payment, your closing costs, and any sort of like rehab or furniture. So you really are figuring out for each of those actual dollars that it took you to get into the deal, how much can you expect to earn back out of that? And I'll explain all this a little bit more and go a little bit slower when we get into the exercise. But really, net operating income, this is really all you're going to need to know to get started on calculating it, is that rental potential analysis. So it's kind of, that's worded a little weird, but it's like, what is the rent potential? There's no leases with these properties. Nobody can guarantee you. I've seen some property management companies locally guaranteeing rents. They have some sort of guarantee they're doing on it, but their rental analysis is coming in very low. And that's because they're guaranteeing you the rent. So don't go with one of those companies. That's a little bit deceiving. They're just trying to get, bodies in the door, but get something that is the rent potential of what realistically the place can do. And then secondarily, just gather expenses. If there's a situation where, and I've had this happen, the sellers, they didn't keep good records. They don't really want to share their numbers. It's probably because they're poor. They could be self-managing and not knowing what they're doing. They could have had a poor property management company. They just don't, for whatever reason, share that information. So we can help you come up with some of the numbers. I have like some basic metrics. I own cabins of different sizes, so we can kind of give you an idea based on utilities, if it's got city water or well water, and those sorts of things. We can usually track down most of that and get pretty close. And then there could be metrics that may happen annually that you'll want to divide into the calculation, and I'll cover that on a future slide. Based on the age of the cabin too, if there's like a hot water heater that's getting up in age, you might want to budget for that somehow. Some of that's going to come out of the cash on cash calculation because you're going to repair it before you start to rent. So then it's not a part of net operating income. But if you do think it's something annually that might come up, then you do want to include those metrics. And I can't think of any really strong examples in the Smokies. You're mostly going to have like, Wi-Fi, water, power. Wi-Fi is the big one. You have to have Wi-Fi. Maybe an HOA fee. It's sort of very basic. And then with cash on cash, like I said, that's literally just your down payment, your closing costs, and then those one-time upfront expenses. So rehab, furniture. Numerous times I've said I'm going to have a component for like when I bought, I'll show you Whiskey Whispers Lodge on a later slide, but when I bought that cabin, it was very turnkey. It looked awesome, but I still put in there like a $3,500 factor because I knew we wanted to add the whiskey theme to the cabin. And so, in that case, you might want to do something like that with the underwriting. Okay, so let's underwrite a cabin. This is an actual deal right now that Penny and I have under contract with a buyer named Sonia. She lives in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. She is one of my closest friends, but she's ready to go all in. I have an impact mission. I'm aiming to get 1,000 women to millionaire status through investing in real estate, particularly in short-term rentals. So she says she's going to be first up, and she's going all in on the Smokies. So she's got this 3-bed, 3-bath. It's in Wares Valley. So if you're shopping the market, write this down. Wares Valley is a little bit, people don't really know it unless they know the market. It's a little unincorporated town within Sevierville that is really close to the Metcalf Bottoms entrance of the park. And this is her cabin here. I think you can see my cursor. It is this one right here. Not in an HOA, it's on private land. Place looks really awesome. And I'm going to actually underwrite this deal and show you what we're expecting that she's going to make on it. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to switch to Excel. If you have Excel on your computer, you are more than welcome to just be doing this side by side, but I'm going to show you how easy it is. You really don't need to have Excel. You could just use a pen and paper. That's how easy we're making it. Okay, so now I'm sharing a different screen. Okay, so here's my blank Excel form. And I just have some notes on her underwriting metrics. So when I'm getting ready to do a deal, I just start by doing deal metrics and then purchase price. Now this is just because I may be looking at more than one. Purchase price is not a huge factor in the underwriting if you already know all the metrics. It's not like we're not gonna back into the purchase price at all, but I'm just gonna put it in. So she's buying that cabin for $860. You might go, wow, that's expensive, but it is a 3-bed, 3-bath. It sleeps 10, and the mountain views are killer. Hot tub, pool table, all the metrics. The place is gonna do very well. Okay, and then the next thing I would recommend just skipping a line, and then you want to do your down payment, and then you're going to do your closing costs, and then potentially any rehab or furniture. Okay, I'm usually a better typer, but my computer is like elevated. Okay, so for her deal, her down payment, she ended up deciding, she's using one of my great lenders, Nate Gort. What's up, Nate? If you're watching on YouTube. He is doing a loan for her through his programs. I believe it's a conventional mortgage, but she decided to do 25% down because she has the ability to do it. And she liked the interest rate that she got by doing that. So she could have did a much lower down payment, but that's what she decided to do. So in Excel, if you know how to use Excel, it's just the equal sign. And then to get 25% of 860, it's just, you got to just put the period there. And then the asterisk will allow you to multiply. And you just click that cell and there it is. So that's what she's putting down. Oops. And then her closing costs are $26,000. I know, very high. The Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan structures changed during COVID because of all the people buying investment properties. So there are required points on some of those programs. So you just have to have a good conversation with your lender and make sure that those closing costs are really transparent to you. You can get what's called a loan estimate so that you can, tell them, here's what I'm thinking on purchase price. Can you give me a loan estimate so I can kind of start doing a little bit of underwriting so that I become educated. Then on her deal, it's a little interesting. She does have work she needs to do, but we were able to negotiate a sizable closing credit. So for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to put 0 here and just leave her closing costs inflated. The buyers actually agreed to a $15,000 credit based on some repairs that the cabin needs. And she's probably going to do all those repairs with that money. So we're probably going to be at a wash. So for the purpose of this exercise, if I move it into rehab furniture or whatever, it won't make a difference for what we're calculating. So then from here, you just want to make a total. So that is going to be 215 plus the 26. Okay, so her total cash in the deal is going to be 241,000. So that's her like out of pocket to buy the cabin. Pretty cool considering it costs $860. I love using other people's money. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is expenses. And this one, there's not very many expenses, which makes it very easy. But again, so mortgage, principal and interest, they're going to go at the end of everything. So you can ignore those two. That's going to obviously be the biggest component, but we're going to ignore that for now. And we're going to start with taxes and insurance. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. And then obviously HOA is a big one in the Smokies. I have several that appear like they're not in an HOA, but maybe there's an HOA, which is like a shared road agreement and you're required to pay road maintenance. So it is common to have some sort of HOA, but not maybe like half of my portfolio has an HOA on it. This one doesn't have any, but I'll still include it since we're going to cover it. And then utilities, that's a big one. That's going to be a catch-all for power, water, propane if it's got a gas fireplace, and then Wi-Fi. You could include landscaping there. You could also include a separate line item for it. We don't really get snow removal. Snow is super rare in the Smokies, and if we get it, it completely shuts the market down. There's no snow removal. It'll just melt. And then the big one for short-term rentals is commissions. So commissions could be, if you're going to self-manage, that would be your Airbnb or Vrbo charges. Or if you're having it professionally managed, it would be the commissions that the management company charges. And then after this, we'll just do a total here. And then we'll go back up and go over what her expenses are. So taxes are low in the Smoky Mountains. Sevier County did just announce that they're going to be starting to assess additional tax to investment properties, but we are still going to be one of the lowest markets, particularly vacation markets in the United States. I looked at the impact to one of my largest cabins, and it was like $1,200 a year more in tax. So it's really a minuscule amount. But if you Google something like Sevier County tax increase, you can read about what that's going to look like. So with her, the tax is going to be $239.75 per month. You want to make sure the expenses are put in monthly on this calculator. And then her insurance is $175.75. It's a robust policy. She's actually going with Erie Insurance, who I have all my insurance with. They are amazing. They provide, it's traditional homeowners, but it's got two other components. It has commercial liability and loss of rental income, which if you do a DSCR loan, you will be required to get that type of insurance. But it's just really good peace of mind. I actually had, I'll show you, Midnight Ridge Lodge. I had a drunk driver hit that cabin in February, 2 months after I bought it. And Erie stepped up and I was able to just bring someone in on my own, repair it, and we didn't miss a beat. The next guest checked in 2 days. So really good insurance company. My friend Rachel works there and I'm happy to refer you to her. Again, I said there's no HOA on this one. And then utilities, we actually were able to get from the seller what the actual true utilities have been for the cabin. And they told us that it ranges an average between $450 to $500 per month. So for her underwriting, we just went with $500. And then commissions for her, she is planning to use Josh's Cabins management for her property management company. So this will be a good example because you'll see that she is still going to make money even with professional management. And so that for her is at 28%. And I told her no friend discount. She told me no friend discount technically. Oh yeah. And so then what we need before we can actually calculate this component is we need to know her rental projection. So I'm going to come back and add that at the end. So right now I can do, I can total this up. So here's another little trick in Excel. If you know Excel, you can do the equal sign, type the word sum, do a parentheses, and then just click and then just drag. And I'll just drag this through commissions since we're going to add it back. Close your parentheses out and then just hit enter and it actually just adds it for you. If you do this, you can see what it's adding. That's a little shortcut for you. Okay, and so next up is the monthly rent. And so again, you want this to be monthly. On this cabin, we know firsthand what it's going to do. It's in the same area where I own 4. And it's much larger than the ones I own and has the amazing view. And so we're projecting that it's going to do just slightly over 120,000 a year. It's not going to do this every month. So just keep this in mind. That's why I do tell buyers you want to have, some sort of cash reserves to cover lower months, just in the event that you don't break even. But then you're going to have months that are she's going to way outperform like June, July, October, particularly. So the monthly number, when you divide it out, is $10,114. And so now we can go back up here and we can put in that commission. So it was the 28 times. And then we're going to use this number here. And so that's her monthly commission. And again, we want to look at a 12-month rolling period, but for the sake of this purpose, we are looking at everything just as an evenly divided average. Because we're just trying to see if it's going to make money or not and how much money you're going to make per dollar that you're putting into the deal. Okay, so we've got all this so far. I'm going to just take a break and re-explain a little bit of it, and then we're going to actually calculate how it's going to do. But you can kind of see it's going to make money. You can already see the math here. But so she's buying it for $860. She's putting down 25%. Closing costs, we've got those included there. So her total out-of-pocket actual cash, dollars and cents, is $241. Her expenses monthly are fairly low. We were at about $915 before the commission charges. So $240 tax, $175 insurance. She's not in an HOA. Utilities, we were a little bit extra conservative on that. We could almost remove $50. And then we have her commissions. So we have the total operating costs of the $37.47. And then her monthly expected rent potential is 10,114. And so now we're going to calculate NOI, so net operating income. And so how you do that is we're literally just going to take that monthly figure and minus the expenses. That's how easy this is. And you're like, whoa, I'm making 6,000 a month. No, you still have your mortgage to pay. So then now we're going to put in that principal and interest figure. And again, like I was saying, I have spreadsheets built out where I just have this rolled into that bigger figure, and you can do it however you like. If you Google this equation, it's going to give you the banker version, which is this version where that loan component is coming out the back end. So for Sonia's deal, her mortgage, including principal and interest, is 4,509. And so you can see she's still going to make money, which is awesome. So then I call this actual income, because now you've already paid your mortgage. And again, you're just going to go ahead and take that NOI number and you're just going to subtract the mortgage number. So we're expecting that she's going to net approximately $1,857 a month. So not too bad. And she's going to be totally passive in the deal because she's got a property management company. Now, for the sake of cash on cash, that's the next metric that we're going to calculate. Super easy to calculate, but we do want to annualize this number. So we'll just say annual income. And so we're just going to multiply this times 12. And so this is what she's expecting to make on the deal, is the $22,290. And so there's different things that you'll see on your tax return once your CPA prepares that for you. You will see depreciation come off of that number. So that's not your total number you're going to be taxed on. They'll deduct it down by, if you do something like a cost segregation and accelerate depreciation, not covering that on this call. But, happy to talk about that on future calls. But there's a lot of different things you can do to offset some of that tax liability, which is nice. So yeah, so this is her deal. This is her actual deal. She's closing May 17th. So she's very excited. And she's looking to get into this thing right before we turn into the hottest season that we have, which is June and July. Also, October is very hot, but she's going to be buying it just right at the perfect time too. So she'll probably exceed this number the first month. Okay, so with cash on cash, I just usually type that like this. Okay, so for her deal, we're just going to do math on annual income divided by total cash. So we've got that annual income number down here, and then we just divide that by this number here, her total cash she's putting in the deal. So that's a percentage. So it is 9%. So back when I started investing, this was 3-4 years ago, particularly in cabins, I was investing in other things before it. You could easily find deals that were like 60% cash on cash. And the only reason I'm saying that is because if you're a newer investor, this might seem quite good to you, but for a lot of the investors that have been around a long time, this number seems like a waste of time. They're not interested in it. But what I say is, if you've got the money, the cash, where are you investing it? What's your strategy? I had another buyer with money sitting in a checking account earning 0% interest, and they were afraid to pull the trigger because the cash on cash was like 8 to 10%. So that just is silly. It doesn't make sense. If you're getting a number like this, then the deal is a go. I personally own the property management company, so I'm going to show you some of my deals that I did very recently. I am getting over 20%, but again, I don't have that large commission number. So I will show you this really quickly. If you're on the fence of whether or not to self-manage or get a property management company, we can change this here to 3%, which is what, Airbnb charges it to self, if you're going to self-manage, you're not going to pay commissions. Boom. So it's a third. So she's paying 30 grand essentially for me to manage her cabin, but she doesn't want to buy herself another job. She doesn't want to make 30 grand to manage a cabin in another state and have the headache of the cleaners and all of that. So just to show you the difference in the deal numbers, I wanted to do this. So that would be the number if she was planning to self-manage. Now, maybe she can't achieve 120,000 in gross rent on her own because we have a hefty marketing budget. We're doing Google ads. She's probably not going to do all that. she would more than likely just put it on Airbnb and let it do its thing. And it is a great property. It's going to have amazing photographs. People are making online shopping decisions when they book. So the likelihood that it books and books well is high, but you just don't know. And so she's like, I don't care. I'm having you do it. Like, that's the story. And I have a lot of other buyers in that same boat. But just to show you, now she's hitting that same metric that I'm hitting when I get my deals. So that's the difference. Sometimes when you buy a cabin, by having this other much higher metric, by affording the property management company, your net income might be negative, which your cash on cash is not a thing because you're making nothing. You're losing money. So that's why underwriting is so key. And it's really key if you're planning on getting a property manager and being totally passive in the game. I am writing a book right now on my strategy of being passive, and it's the huge component is to get professional management. So this is it. This is all of it. Yeah, I think it's interesting. She was able to negotiate the 15,000 credit to closing, so that's huge. Let's just say she wasn't going to use that money to do any repairs, and she was just going to set it and forget it and pocket that money, or use it to offset her closing. Then her cash on cash does jump slightly, but it's not a huge difference, which is pretty interesting. 15,000 doesn't really skew it. And I just wanted to point that out. If you get into a deal, you're under contract, you're like, this is they're not willing to budge on the price, they're not going to do a credit. Is 15,000 really a deal breaker? It's really not. I mean, it took her from what, 9.2 to 9.8. So it's like it's really nil. It's not a big deal. So when you're thinking about sellers and trying to get them to negotiate credits for you, it doesn't really move it sounds like a lot, but it doesn't really move the needle that much on a purchase of this size. So I'll just hit the undo button. So these are the actual metrics of her actual deal. I actually called her lender, Nate, my friend, today and said, can you remind me some of these numbers so that because when we underwrote her deal, we guessed on some of the metrics, like we had good estimates, but these are her actual numbers for the deal that she is closing on in just a couple of weeks. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to the slides because I have more great info to share with you. Hopefully everyone is still tracking. We'll go through this and then we will take some questions. All right, so there's the cabin we just underwrote. I told her, you better think of a cool name. That's another key to this market, thinking of cool names. All right, so here's the two deals that I did last year. I did more deals than that, but these are the two most recent ones. I don't know why this bar is not going away. It's kind of annoying. So this is Whiskey Whispers Lodge. Again, this is Wares Valley, same spot where Sonia's cabin's at. This is purchased October. I actually did do a 1031 exchange. I sold, I think for this one, I sold a house that I owned in Knoxville, which is really close to the Smokies. I actually lived in that house at one time. And when I moved out of the house, I got a tenant. Then I just decided, I'm not a long-term rental investor. I'm really in love with short-term rentals. So I decided to take advantage of that appreciation, and I bought Whiskey Whispers Lodge. It wasn't named that when I bought it. It had some funny name. I don't know what Bear or something. But this one, I'm expecting net operating income around 40 grand. It's a stellar deal. Cash on cash around 26. It's been a huge hit because of the whiskey theme. So we basically added, you can kind of see on the porch there's a little whiskey barrel. It's actually a tequila barrel. We couldn't find a whiskey barrel fast enough. And then we have furniture that has like whiskey barrel bottoms on the tables. And then we hung stuff on the walls. And then we did like a very cute like mini bar area. If you want to look at all the photos from this cabin, you can go to joshscabins.com. And again, it's called Whiskey Whispers Lodge. The bears were super annoying. They actually have right down the hill like a man-made, it's like a pond. It's like this perfect circle with water. So the bears know that there's water there, but at some point in time, somebody fed bears from this cabin. So they know how to get on the lower deck. They know how to open the gate. So that was fun. But yeah, this deal, so ended up being 134,000 in cash. I actually ended up doing more than 20% down because I just took all the cash from the house that I sold and put it into this deal. So that is that deal. And then here is Midnight Ridge Lodge. I just bought this one in December. Actually did another 1031 exchange. I got rid of a property that I was holding in Panama City Beach, Florida. During the pandemic, I said, prices are starting to creep up in the Smokies. Maybe I should get a beach property. Not a good plan for me. It spread my team thin. I was using the same team I'm using for cabins down there. And they're like, it's the only one thing you have. It's kind of a lot of work to be managing cleaners and vendors and for just one property. And then just the quality of the guests that came to the Florida property was pretty poor because they were coming there to party mostly. So sold that one, got a great amount of appreciation in about 11 months. And then I added probably about 50 grand out of pocket to get this cabin, which was, I was not the first buyer, but it was still technically new construction. When I bought it, it was probably like 8 months old. And this one, the deal metrics are almost identical to the other. This one's performing, actually outperforming what I thought it would do in just this short period of time, because it is beautiful. It is like, if you, again, go to joshscabins.com, you can check it out, but it's got granite kitchen, you know, very fancy kitchen, but it's still very much a cabin on the inside. It still has all the tongue and groove. And then the black on the outside really just makes it pop in photos. And I'm going to be filming at this cabin in mid-May for a major TV show. They actually don't care about me. They care about the property. So that's exciting. And this one, unfortunately, was the one that was hit by the drunk driver in February. It happened in the middle of the night. It was somebody staying at the cabin right behind this one, and they just drove right into the cabin. They took out the bear cage and the staircase and like some of the facade, but we got really lucky. There was no one staying there that night, and it didn't destroy any of the foundation. So it was actually, it sounds very tragic, and it was, but it was actually okay. So we are happy with how it turned out. So that's that deal. Okay, so as next steps out of this, hopefully this got your juices flowing, got you thinking about the market. These are several of the different ways that you can partner more with me and my teams. So I do one-on-one coaching. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions during a call like this, I do have one-on-one coaching offers. I'm gonna probably send an email about this tomorrow or right after the call, so you have details. And then I am going to be doing a master class. It will be similar to this. It'll be a paid session. And what I'm offering is an even deeper look into the numbers and also the ability to underwrite your deal. So if you have a particular deal that you want me to run through on the call, I'll do that. So I am going to email information out about that. It's going to be next Thursday, which I think is the 11th at the same time. And then we would love for you to work with us. So with Invest in the Smoky Mountains, we are primarily buyers agents. We do take listings, but we focus primarily on buyers who want to buy cabins and be successful. That's the name of our game. And so here's some information on how to follow up. So I don't think I've shared this website before, but this is my personal website. It's leslieannmorris.com, and that's Ann with an E. And that website talks about everything I'm doing, links to all of my different things I have my hands in, and just kind of my story and who I am. And then investinthesmokymountains.com. We do have an MLS feed on there. So there are listings. We have all the listings. You can also do the same, very similar thing on Zillow, but ours is updated to the minute. It is an actual MLS feed. You can set up your own searches there. If you're just not ready, you're not sure, you know, if you want to get pre-approved and go through the exercise, you're more than welcome to look at that site and see what we're all about. And then Instagram, I'm very active on there. I do share case studies when I have a deal in escrow, and that's at leslie.ann.morris. And that was all I was planning to cover today. And so I will stop the sharing, and I will check and see if there's any questions. And then Penny, if you want to introduce yourself, Penny is an agent on my team, and she's lived in the area her whole life. And she is been awesome to work with, and it's very, very fun time with her. I don't know if you want to say anything.
I don't know what to say. I'm here to help. If anybody has any questions, get in touch with me. I'll do my best to find you a cabin.
Okay, so Holly, question about building in the Smokies when we get to Q&A. You're on.
Okay. Yes, I do have questions. Let me lower my hand because that's just obnoxious to leave it up. So the first question that I had was like, where and what is the best way to determine, like, where do you look? Like, I know you own like 13 cabins, and so like you have a good idea of what rents are. But like for the rest of us, if we were looking to see like what the potential income could be of a cabin, what we're purchasing, where's the best place to look for that? And how do you determine?
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, there's tons of ways. I actually just met the CEO of AirDNA when I was in London, a woman, Demi Horvat. They have a tool, so AirDNA is great. She said their data actually goes back to 2015, so it depends on if you've paid for their service and what you're looking for, but you can basically get whatever you want. Another tool, I've built an ROI calculator on, it's join.joshscabinsmanagement.com. So Josh's with an S, cabins with an S, management.com, join. There is an ROI.
Kenny, can you throw that in the chat?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one way, or we can do rental projections through key data. You can also, you know, if you're very curious about like a very particular neighborhood that you're looking at, I do myself go on Airbnb and do like a traveler search to see, you know, what's going on in this area. Is it booking? Are people empty? What's the rates like? You do have to be careful though doing that method because they might not know what they're doing and it might be priced very low and then booked a lot, or they might have it priced too high and it's not booking at all. So it's kind of like a game there. But there's lots of methods. I'm trying to type this and I can't see. Management. Now, hopefully I didn't typo it because I'm not looking. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, there's an ROI, it says ROI calculator, and you can go in, it's got little like things you can drag for how many bedrooms. The view is gonna really make a big difference on rental income. So if it's got a stellar mountain view like Sonia's cabin that we just underwrote, then that would be like at a 10 on the scale that I built.
So then I have a stupid question, right? Because I was in a bunch of different short-term rentals, Smokies, groups on Facebook, and like somebody had to point out because people were complaining about how steep the roads were, and it was like, if you want great mountain views, you have to be up the mountain.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, they're kind of all treacherous.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, I have not driven to Sonia's cabin yet, so I don't know how her road is, but my cabins that are in Wares Valley, they are, I think they're fine. I have a little sports car that drags and hits everything because it's very low to the ground. And I drive up every single one of these mountains and have no issue. I think it's just guests from out of the area, more like people from larger cities, they aren't used to mountain roads. And so then they might complain in a review, but then they'll be like, but it was worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was like, well, that just you can't be at the bottom of the mountain and have a view of the top, right? It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then
there are some HOA communities, but the cabins are literally like right on top of one another. And I've helped buyers buy these cabins. There is a market for them or they wouldn't be there. But you can access them via nice paved roads. The inclines aren't very steep. But again, their cabins, and they're usually like a PUD, a planned unit development. So you don't actually own your land, you only own your property and like the land it actually sits on. It's quite interesting. So it's just a different type of property, but they both, there's a market for both. And if it's got a mountain view, it's going to do good.
Okay. So then I don't want to take up all the time. If anybody else has a question, go ahead and
There's
ask.
questions in the chat. So why don't we table you and we'll see what else it says.
Okay. Table me.
Okay. We got somebody wanting to find a value add cabin. These are really hard in the Smokies. I'm always looking for value add cabins. I actually found one that wasn't a cabin, but it could very easily be modified to look and feel like a cabin. And I offered 30 over ask and they laughed at me. So there's really no deals. People know what these things are worth. It's really hard to find. It's really hard. And even like somebody was asking me today about off market, we really don't see that very much off market because the people know that these things are gonna be a gold mine. So it's really, it's tough to find like deals. It's really tough. That's why we're underwriting them heavily, right? Okay, and then do your DSCR lenders recognize the short-term rental income or just, yes, they do. Yep. Yeah, they had in the past used AirDNA, and then like I did a commercial loan with Tennessee State Bank, and they actually used my company's rental projection. I was like, I could have put anything on there. Are you sure? He's like, oh, it's no problem. So yeah, definitely. DSCR lenders in the past were really not savvy about this. They got really, their risk tolerance was very low to non-leased properties, and these do not have leases. That's the beauty of them. So now they've pivoted. Not every DSCR lender is created equal, so I would just be asking that question ahead of time with whichever one you're working with, how they recognize short-term rental income.
Do you have any like a short list of some that recognize the short-term rental income?
I do. Yep. Just shoot me an email.
Okay.
It's morrisleslie.ann@gmail.com, and I can send you some.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Holly, you're back up. What is the best way to determine what type of rent you can get? We covered that. Okay. Smoky
Right.
season, high season, low season. Yeah. So high season, October leaf season is crazy good, including into November, because sometimes the leaves are late. Thanksgiving is awesome. Christmas is awesome. This March was killer. I mean, I had occupancy at 100% on a lot of my cabins, which is not normal. They just went crazy for spring break. And June and July are phenomenal. May has been slow. And then April was like 50-50. Like some of the ones I managed did awesome. And then some of them only got like 3 bookings. So it was just like, I can't predict what's happening. We're just heavily doing Google ads and marketing and just trying to make sure we stand out from the pack right now. But yeah, everybody got to pay out. Nothing is sitting empty. They are booking on the weekends. Does property management percent cover cleaning fees and maintenance? Yes. So with my property management company, we cover, so cleaning fees are charged to the guest and then passed to the cleaner. So you never see that or have to worry about that. Maintenance is a little trickier. It depends what it is. So if it's something that's under $100, that's like a guest broke a wine glass, we will just buy a new one and replace it. We won't bill you back for that. If it's maintenance, like something is wrong with your cabin, we will charge you for that. It could be something very minor and it's not going to cost you that much. We do cover light bulbs, batteries. If somebody breaks something, like I said, under $100, so those sorts of little easy things. But we are full service management. So if there's something that's going on at your cabin, you're not going to be expected to meet a plumber or call a plumber. We're going to handle all of that on your behalf. And facilitate payments and do all those sorts of things. So it's really a set it and forget it. There's even times when owners don't even know, they don't even talk to some of my owners. They're just happy. They're getting a check. They're like, whatever, whatever's going on. But then, if you want to hear from us, you can definitely hear from us too. Okay, Ames had to leave. Okay, thanks for joining us. Thank you for the great information. I grew up in Knoxville and currently live in Cecil. Oh, great. Thanks, Shane, for joining. Thanks, Adrian, for joining. She's in GoBundance, my mastermind. Check it out if you're looking for a women's mastermind. I think that's it, unless anybody else had any questions. We have 6 more minutes. Holly!
What? I feel like,
You
okay.
need to buy something in the Smokies. What the hell?
I know I do, right? So I was looking. I got to ask you, because you've done new construction in the Smokies, right? So I understand, like, if you buy a lot and you hire a builder to build you a cabin, that you're kind of funding that building. But have you ever experienced where a builder is a developer, and he's developing an entire, like, association per se, right? And he is expecting at that point, like, he's expecting the buyer to fund all the construction costs. Is that normal in your area, or is it not?
We see that, yeah. Actually,
To
somebody,
me, it's red flags all over the
Yeah.
place. Like you're supposed to be doing an entire development, and you're telling me you don't have the wherewithal to build these
Yeah.
places.
yeah, they buy the land and then subdivide it and then sell the lots. And then they want you to go get a construction loan. I have a great lender for that if anybody wants to give it a shot. But yeah, there's always issues popping up with builds. And so I am managing my own project. I have a construction company. I have a lender. I bought the lot with cash. It's right next to Crimson, which was the red chair one in the early slides. It kind of fell into my lap, this lot. It was my neighbor selling it. I didn't want anybody building next to me, so I bought it and I decided I'm going to build a cabin because I've never done it. Do not recommend. I bought the lot like in 2021 and I'm just now breaking ground. So there's your sign. It's been 2 years. So don't buy for cash flow, buy turnkey. That's my recommendation. There are lots of new, like what I would do if you really want new construction is to buy something that's like almost, it's going to be finished by the time you close. Like I've seen some of those pop up, some of the ones you were looking at, those like modern fancy ones, like that might be good. People probably have good experiences too. I think people just come to me complaining with the bad, and then I'm like, oh, don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It just like, to me, when I spoke to this developer and he's like, well, you have to get a construction loan, you have to fund the whole thing, and we want 35% up front. I'm like, what freaking bank in the world in their right mind is going to give you 35% of construction costs up front? Right. And then at the end of a year, when you're finally done, what guarantee do I have that you're delivering to me the product that I initially purchased a year ago, and that you're going to have the whole development done?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then you're going to be next to construction, which is like the kiss of death.
Right.
I had buyers get one under contract sight unseen, which I highly recommend. Tennessee is a very friendly state. If for some reason you go see it, you don't like it, you can back out, as you're aware, Holly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I do it too. It's not you don't want to do it routinely, but ended up being right near a bunch of construction. I'm like, I was embarrassed because I didn't know. I'm like, the listing agent didn't tell me, and I couldn't tell from Google Earth. We did so much due diligence, but then physically when we got there, it was like, ugh, it was like a bidding situation. We had to get it under contract. So I talked to the buyers and I said, well, here's the timeline they're giving me. This is what they're saying. Like, I'm going to be happy with whatever decision you make. If you decide you want to back out, cool. And he's like, no, we want to buy it. We love the place. And then it turned into be a non-issue because there was enough space in between them and the build, and their cabin's doing rad. So, I wouldn't want construction next to me. That's why I ended up with this piece of land.
Right. All right. So then my last question is, like, so I know like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, all those areas, like those are the hot areas to be. Wares Valley is nice.
Yeah.
Right. What about all that new development that they're doing up there off of Route 41, off of that exit, where the big Buc-ee's,
Yes.
am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Buc-ee's is being built, and then they're going to do that whole like town for like a touristy thing.
That's where my Midnight Ridge Lodge is. That's why I bought that place. Right there. Yeah, that's really in a good spot, like right off of 40. So tourists coming down from Illinois, Virginia, they love that cabin because they get there a lot faster. They don't have to go down the parkway. They just come right off the highway. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. And then I saw another project. Actually, I think my sister told me about it because they're planning to come to the Smokies and we're going to stay at that cabin in July. There's a new amusement park going in that's going to be like heavy equipment. Like you can go play on heavy equipment. Like that.
I know, right? It's like Tonka toys.
Yeah, did you see it?
I did.
There's a bunch of stuff. So, if you're price sensitive, price per square foot is lower in Townsend. Townsend is by Cades Cove. Jack Daniels has apparently going to break ground sometime soon on a distillery there. But I own 2 in Townsend. One is like where I live when I'm over there. The rents are not as high, so you got to be really careful with rental projections in that market. So as a first, I don't recommend buying it as your first adventure because you'll be like, oh, this place doesn't do that good. because it's Townsend, it's very quiet and sleepy. It'll do killer during summer, because it's right by river tubing and Cades Cove, and then there's caverns, also taverns, but caverns there. It's really cute, but it's a small town, and they like are trying to not allow people to develop there. So a lot of stuff that wants to come in gets turned away. So I'm kind of shocked about the Jack Daniels. So I'll believe it when I see it, but they've been putting out press releases.
So then your black one, how far is that from like Pigeon Forge, Dollywood?
Townsend is about 25 to 30 minutes from Wares Valley.
Okay.
So it's going to be like 40 minutes from Dollywood. It's not going to fit the metrics. So I usually tell buyers, if you're going to buy in the area, be within a 20-minute drive of one of the 3 biggest tourist sites, which are Dollywood, the island in Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg. If you email me and ask, I'll email you this information. I send it to everybody. So within a 20-minute drive, I own on Douglas Lake, one of my cabins. And that cabin is 25 to 26-minute drive from Dollywood, and people complain about the location. They're like, it's not very close to anything, but it's like, you can take your boat. So pick what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we're a minute over. So does anybody have any last burning questions? No. Well, this has been great. I like your animal head, Scott. Oh, I see another one behind you. I put animal heads in cabins. I think they're cool.
That was last year's deer.
I love it. I know. I'm like, I can't see what it is. I've seen people put up bear skins too. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that, but I don't think the kids would like that, but yeah. Well, awesome. Well, if you would reach out, if you're interested, I'll do a follow-up email. I'll send the YouTube link once this is live, and hopefully talking to you all and working with you all in the future. But thanks for joining tonight.
Thanks.
Great to see you, Holly.
You too. See you in a couple weeks.
Yes, that'll be so fun. Bye, Penny. Thanks for joining.